Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8, verse number 25. Vipatsantu tatsasvat tatra tatra jagadguru bhavato darshanam yasyad apunar bhavadarshanam. Vipadah santu tatsasvat tatra tatra jagadguru bhavato darshanam yasyad anu apunar bhavadarshanam. Word to word translation. Or Vipadha, calamities. Santu, let there be. Tat, all. Sasvat, again and again. Tatra, there. Tatra, and there. Jagat Guru, O Lord of the universe. Bhavatat, your. Darshanam, meeting. Yat, that which. Syat, is. Apuna, not again. Bhavadarshanam, seeing repetition of birth and death. Translation. I wish that all those calamities would happen again and again, so that we could see you again and again. For seeing you means that we no longer see repeated birth and death. Purport. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Generally, the distressed, the needy, the intelligent, and the inquisitive, who have performed some pious activities, worship or begin to worship the Lord. Others, who are thriving on misdeeds only, regardless of status, cannot approach the Supreme due to being misled by the illusionary energy. Therefore, for pious persons, if there is some calamity, there is no other alternative than to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Constantly remembering the lotus feet of the Lord means preparing for liberation from birth and death. Therefore, even though there are so-called calamities, they are welcome because they give us an opportunity to remember the Lord, which means liberation. One who has taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, which are accepted as the most suitable boat for crossing the ocean of nations, can achieve the liberation as easily as one leaps over the holes made by the hoof of a calf. Such persons are meant to reside in the abode of the Lord, and they have nothing to do with a place where there is danger in every step. This material world is certified by the Lord in Bhagavad Gita as dangerous place full of calamities. Less intelligent persons prepare plans to adjust to those calamities without knowing that the nature of this place in itself full of calamities. They have no information of the abode of the Lord, which is full of bliss without trace of calamity. The duty of the sane person, therefore, is to be undisturbed by the worldly calamities, which are sure to happen in all circumstances. Suffering all sorts of unavoidable misfortunes, one should make progress in the spiritual realization because that is the mission of human life. The spirit soul is transcendental to all material calamities. Therefore, the so-called calamities are false. A man may see a tiger swallowing him in a dream, and he may cry for this calamity. Actually, there is no tiger, there is no suffering. It is simply a cause of dreams. In the same way, all calamities of life are said to be dreams. If someone is lucky enough to get in contact with the Lord by devotional service, it is all gain. Contact with the Lord by one of the 9 devotional service is always a forward step on the path going back to Godhead. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatharini Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So welcome to reading of Srimad Bhagavatam today morning. A beautiful rainy day. On this day we are reading. I feel that this is one of the very difficult, at least for my knowledge, it's very difficult to do justice in speaking on this verse, because at least speaking about myself personally, I do not have any realizations, nor am I looking forward for calamities like Mother Kunti is saying here. So it's hard to say something genuinely truthful, or even with any realizations, right? So I'll try to put forward some thoughts that came into my mind. I also happened to hear a lecture by Srila Prabhupada, a very beautiful lecture. It's on prabhupadvani.com. So if you get a chance, please kindly listen to that beautiful lecture. Srila Prabhupada started the lecture by saying, this is a very interesting verse. I felt it was nice, how Srila Prabhupada said it, the way he says, it's a very interesting verse. And then he started to explain the verse. So it is definitely very interesting, right? Because if you see, in the material world, as we are navigating through different challenges, or we are just living in this material world, right? Every moment we are trying to avoid any difficulties that come in our life. I'll take it at different levels, right? Any inconvenience that is coming in our life, on top of, a little more higher than inconvenience is difficulties that come in life. And then on top of it, any dangers that come in life, right? We're trying to avoid all those. And then here, Mother Kunti is saying, give me more of those. How can one understand this one? Where, we at every moment are trying to, every action that we do, is an effort to avoid these. And Queen Kunti is asking for more of that, right? So let us try to see why is she asking about this, right? Now, before even we go there, I think it is important to understand or recognize, what we are doing in this material world. Moment to moment, what are we doing? A lot of the times we forget what we are doing in this material world. So if you take a closer look, like under a microscope, right, and say, what am I doing here, right? In the morning, I get up, I brush my teeth, I go, cook food, take food, go to work, do some work, come back, and whatnot, right? So it's going in a cyclic process. What are we doing every moment? So I thought a nice contrast would be is to compare our life, and you must have heard me repeat this several times, when we compare ourselves with the animals, right? So if we observe a bird, right? For example, in spring, I see a lot of robins. If you observe a bird, it comes down flying, it lands on the grass. It's looking for some food, it's usually looking for a worm or something like that. But as you closely observe it, maybe in a matter of maybe even 10 seconds or 15 seconds, it turns its head in pretty much 360, like at least 100 times, moment to moment. Why is it looking around so quickly? And if you observe the bird, it is so, you'll feel that it's so restless and it's looking around every moment. That is because every moment it recognizes danger. It is always fearful. It is looking around and saying, is there something attacking me? Is there somebody attacking me? Or an animal, a cat, a human being? Every moment it is trying to be cautious. Is something attacking me, right? And then at the same time, it is also trying to find food, right? It's trying to look for things, that it can eat. Now, let us assume if the robin doesn't eat, what happens? Early on we saw that there is danger from different directions. It's pursuing danger from different directions. And then if it does not eat food, what will happen? There is danger from within the body itself, right? Without food, it'll be hungry, it'll starve. If it doesn't drink water, it'll become dehydrated, and then eventually it'll die. So there is danger from within too, right? Danger from external world, danger from within the body too. Imagine being in that situation, right? How distressful we will be. And that is our true situation here too. I think, and like early on I said, you will notice a pattern of what I repeat is us human beings are not different from animals at all. It is just that we have created a society, an agreement with our fellow living beings, with our fellow uh, human beings, that we will form a society and we follow certain rules and regulations so that we don't perceive this danger every moment to moment. So what do we think? Some person does good, works hard, produces food, and then that person sells that food, and then the agreement is we will go and buy that food. While we are not the robin who's going out and searching for food every moment to moment out in the nature, but we've just come in agreement with other human beings just so that anything that our body needs is satisfied. And similarly, right, if there's danger to our body, we go to a doctor. That's another agreement that we have. The doctor will help us cure. Somebody will make medicine, give me medicine. Somebody knows how to build a house. You pay the money, you build a house, you save yourself from material danger. I mean, from the dangers of the nature, for example, your rain, lightning, thunder, sun, heat. I mean, heat, and that's how we form. But if we remove all these agreements that we have had with other fellow living human beings, we are in danger every moment. And we will not be able to live. The animals somehow they have a tendency to forget because they don't have this discretion to question why. Why am I in danger? What can I do to not to be in danger? The animals don't have that discretion, but the humans have that discretion. They can ask this question, why am I in danger? Now, if we do not have this whole agreement, I think then it will be very difficult for us to live, first of all. So here Srila Prabhupada in the beginning of the purport, he says, human beings, at least the human beings who are in certain categories, they can question. And if they actually question, try to pursue the answers to this question, then they can potentially find a solution, right? So that's the nature of dangers here in this material world. Now, should we, and this goes back to our ABCs of Krishna consciousness, right? Meaning, should we try to remain, I mean, why these dangers, and then how can we get relief from these dangers, right? So having spoken about that dangers of material world, now let us take a totally different perspective, right? How do we deal with these dangers? Not even dangers, how do we deal with in the different levels we said, right? How do we deal with the discomfort in life? How do we deal with the inconvenience of life or difficulties in life, and on top of it, the dangers of life, right? Now, if we take a look at Bhagavad Gita, that's where the Supreme Lord gives us a direction, right? Especially when we take a look at the discomforts of life that we get, right? The Supreme Lord says, one should be tolerant. Sitoshna Sukadukada Agama Pahima Nityastam Sthitiktasva Bharata. He says one should learn to tolerate. That is a very, very important aspect that one should cultivate. The importance of learning to tolerate inconveniences in life. Because especially in this modern day material world, we have very little patience to tolerate things, right? The moment temperature goes above 80, 85, we want the AC turned on, right? Anything, right? Every moment we are just trying to solve the problems that we come ahead, right? Why is it important to tolerate? I think one may say, if there's a solution, why not apply the solution? Why do we have to tolerate? The key thing here is, yes, for most often for smaller things, you will always find solutions. But the true nature of this material world is there is not a solution for everything that we face in life. And then even if there is a solution, Prahlad Maharaj very nicely states in his prayers, says, the solution to problem is just going to create a new problem for us. So it's like the Newton's law of energy. I think, is it Newton's law? Yeah, the law of conservation of energy. It nicely states that energy can neither be created nor be destroyed, but can only be transformed from one form to another form. So similarly, the difficulties that we get in life or the distress we get in life, it can never be eliminated. You can only change it from one form to another form. And you will, and if we see it in our life, that's very true, right? A simple example is, heating and like it's very hard to turn on the AC, but that creates a different problem for us. We may not see it at a micro level, but at a macro level, it does create a lot of energy, right? Meaning you have to create electricity and this is simply, I mean, it's hard for us to perceive that because it's not directly affecting us. But if we closely observe our own life, right, every problem that we try to solve is going to just create newer problems. Hare Krishna, 1 second. There is an alarm beeping. I'll be right back. Maybe too noisy for you. Is it okay, Prabhuji? I'll mute for 1 minute. There's alarm ringing. Okay. Hare Krishna, can you still hear me?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, sorry, Prabhuji. Yes. The problems of material nature, right? So you create a house, the house has a hole. When it rains, the water comes and the alarm beeps, right? So what I'm trying to say here is the problems of this material world are inevitable. And then the only solution is to get out of this material world. That is what Srila Prabhupada is trying to say in the lecture. And he gives a very, and I truly love Srila Prabhupada's analogies that he gives. What he says is, imagine you're traveling on a boat or a ship, and it's a first class ship. It's out in the ocean. It's something like a massive ship, like a Titanic, right? He also points out to the example of Titanic. So you're imagine in a first class boat like that, and say everything is comfortable. Does that mean you're out of danger? No, because any moment, what if the ship breaks? You'll fall in the ocean, you'll fall in the water. So the safest place is to get to the land on the other side. Now he says this material world is like that, right? We are living in this material world. We're trying to make everything comfortable for us. yes, as every wave comes in, right, you're trying to figure out, right, you're in the boat, you're trying to figure out, okay, there's a wave coming. I'll figure out how to handle this wave, and then I'll get over that wave. But then there's wave after wave after wave. But Srila Prabhupada says there's no point in trying to waste your time in trying to solve, how am I going to get over this wave? How am I going to get over this wave? How am I going to get over this wave? There's no point in trying to solve those problems. The focus of it should be is how do I get and how do I get onto the land? So that is the most important aspect that we need to think about. And he says that solution is Krishna consciousness, right? Taking the shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Now that is what Mother Kunti is saying here, right? She's giving us, uh, an example where he says, I wish those calamities, sometimes when we focus on that first part, it kind of can bewilders us, right? I wish those calamities come in again. Why would somebody ask for that? But she's giving us a reason why she's asking that, right? What happening is so that we can see you again and again, so that we can see Krishna again and again. And by seeing Krishna, that means we will no longer have this repeated birth and death, meaning we don't have to go and go through these waves again, and we can just get onto the land. So I think for us, at least for the people who are on at our level, it is important to see the second aspect of it. So, how can I see Krishna again and again? How can I take shelter of Krishna again and again? And then by looking at that again and again, for that, we can get out of this material world. We can get out of this ocean of distress, right? So, yeah, I think in essence, that's what it is, right? But at the same time, we are also living in this material world. So it is important to understand, our position as material world. So I just want to bring a different concept in here, something that I came across several years ago, right? Because often when calamities happen to us, what happens is we become bewildered by those calamities. Now, yes, while it is important to shake the shelter of Krishna consciousness, sometimes it's also helpful to understand the process of what somebody who's going through calamities, what is that it goes in them, right? So sometimes, while it's called Sambandha, Vidhe, and Prayojana, right? Sambandha Gyan is important. Yes, how do I take shelter of Krishna? Abhidheya is, why should I take shelter is Sambandha Gyan. Abhidheya is, how do I take shelter? Sometimes it's also important to understand the obstacles in our life, right? Or what typically goes in with us, right? So I want to share that knowledge. It actually, I went through some training several years ago. Um, and one Mataji, she nicely put, she comes from a medical background, and she gave something called the stages of grief. What it is, and we can easily put that in perspective of Bhagavatam. We can easily see that in the different examples. But I thought this perspective would help us understand a little better. What it is the stages of grief means, say something happens to you in your life all of the sudden. You're not expecting it, you're not anticipating it, and suddenly it hits you in your life, right? That means, it does, sometimes it's the extreme, right? Somebody may become extremely disease struck, or they may be in an accident, or something drastically happens in them, right, in their life. It could be the danger to yourself, right? Sometimes it is like, you're doing a good work at your job, everything is going fine, you're dependent, your family is dependent on the job, and all of a sudden you lose that job, right? Or you love somebody, your family member, and suddenly something happens to them. That is called the stages of grief. So every person goes through these different stages. So I thought it's important for me to share this. I got a lot of realizations through it. So I thought I'll share that one, because especially we're talking about the dangers and calamities, right? So the first stage of grief is called denial. What it means is somebody, all of a sudden, I think we can take a hypothetical example, something a little more easier, I think. So say, for example, let's take job, right? a hypothetical example is all of a sudden your job, your boss comes and says, sorry, no more work, don't come from tomorrow, right? The first stage that everybody goes through is called denial. Denial meaning you're unable to accept the fact, right? The fact that this happened to me. In some cases, say for example, a doctor comes to a patient and says, suddenly you have XYZ thing, right? The first thing is denial. No, this is not true. I'll go and take a second opinion. In case of job, you may say, oh no, my manager, let me go and talk to his boss, or let me go and talk to the owner of the company. Let me talk to somebody else who can reverse this thing, right? That's called denial. A lot of the times, we don't want to accept something that has hit upon us immediately. That is called denial. Then what happens is, we spend some time in that stage, slowly, as more and more information feeds us, we finally come to know, oh, this is for real. This is happening to us. This is happening to me. So it goes to the next stage where you become angry. Meaning, because all of a sudden this thing has happened to me, you become angry at it. You try to find the reason for it, or you become angry at someone. For example, right? You may say, it's my boss, it's because of him, and you become angry at your boss. Me and my boss had a fight, about a year ago or something like that, right? You become angry at that person. Or you become angry at somebody, a family member. It's because of you I could not do my job well, or it is because of you I was distracted, or it is because of you I could not take care of my health, anything, something like that. You find somebody to blame, or you find a reason to blame, and you become extremely angry. And you become angry at different people or circumstances or whatnot. That's called anger. And then after expressing that anger and whatnot, the other stage, and again, sometimes these stages overlap, is called bargaining. Meaning at that time, you will start to negotiate. Meaning you will go and you'll say, okay, after blaming your boss, for example, you will say, okay, is there anything I can do differently? I'm so sorry, I must have done something wrong. I will perform better. I'll work part-time if you want. You will start negotiating, right? And similarly, you start negotiating with your family members. I'll be a nice person from now on. I'll change my ways of life and whatnot, right? That's called bargaining stage. And then after bargaining, also you realize nothing is working, right? Nothing is working. Then you go to the stage of depression. Why me? Why is this happening to me? And sometimes you may still be in anger, or sometimes you may still be bargaining, but still there's a form of depression, meaning I don't like to do anything. I don't want to do anything. Why me? And you kind of, go inwards in the sense like you just want to, put yourself away from society and stuff like that, depression. And then after you go through that stage, after, spending some time in that stage, finally, you start to think, okay, it is reality. There's no point in being angry at someone. There's no point in bargaining at someone. There's no point in being in that, not doing any action. And then finally, one comes to the acceptance stage, meaning, yes, now I know that I don't care about the reasons why this happened. I don't care about, I don't want to negotiate this. I know that this is for real, and you accept it. And then you take the steps to continue your journey, meaning you take the steps to what should be done next and what can I do there. So the reason why I wanted to share this is, this is very, very true in every principle that we learn in Krishna consciousness, right? One doesn't have to go through all these stages if we know the reality. Meaning, if we know the reality that this world is a place of misery, that any moment misery can strike us, we are always in danger, then one doesn't have to go through this whole cycle of suffering. Or I'm not saying a devotee is exempt from these things, a devotee very likely goes through these things, but the journey from denial to acceptance is very, very quick. So it it because we know the sambandha jnana of it, meaning because we know why things are happening to us, or why why something might have happened to us, or why this world is like this, or what to expect out of this world. Because we have that knowledge, we can quickly come to acceptance. And then we can put our devotee hat when things happen in our life and say, yes, this is the true nature of it, and I understand that this material world is temporary. Okay, what can I do just to survive in this material world? But end of the day, I want to get out of this material world. That journey becomes very, very easy for us. And for a non-devotee, this journey may be long or shorter, but unfortunately they have to go through this journey again and again and again, because they don't have this knowledge how to completely get out of this dealing with wave after wave after wave, right? So I thought I wanted to share that one aspect of what the cycles through which a person goes through when something drastically happens in their life, right? So having said that, I want to close this by giving a small realization that I got last night, right? So this is a Labor Day weekend. My son Baladev, we just wanted to do something special, something different or whatnot, right? Usually he goes bike riding with his friends and whatnot. He could not go bike riding because he's been getting allergies, so he could not go. So we were sitting yesterday morning together, and we were just out in the backyard. Then all of a sudden, we got this idea. How about we do camping? So we could borrow a tent from one of our devotees, and then we said we will just do backyard camping, right? So last night was camping for us. So we were out, nice comfortable tent, nice bed, everything nice, and we set it up, right? And then as we started to sleep, first thing was, we felt uncomfortable, right? Because it's not our comfortable bed that we have inside the house. And then slowly we started to feel the heat because there's no air conditioning. And then slowly we started to, have mosquitoes and whatnot, right? So eventually, but every moment, I kept saying, it's still fun. It is something different, right? Let us tolerate this. Let's have fun, right? Let's keep doing it, right? And slowly, things, kept adding on up, meaning as the night went through, and morning 4 a.m., it started to rain. And I'm like, oh, it's even fun, to have rain and, being sleeping in a tent. And then it eventually thunderstorm started, lightning happened, and then I was like, oh, it is still, let me still stay here. It's still fun. Yes, it's inconvenient, but it's still fun, right? And we continued to stay in the camp. But after lightning increased more and more, I said, no, it's time I go back into the house. I woke Baldev up, and he was coughing all through the night because of his allergies. I woke him up and said, let's go inside the house. There's too much lightning. It's not safe here. And I was thinking about it, right? That is how we are living in this material world. We want to have fun. We try to have fun, and something or the other comes up. Meaning, this problem, that problem comes. But we keep saying, that's okay. I will deal with this small problem. It is, because I'm still having fun on the side, right? It's fun. But we continue doing that again and again and again. And while the intensity keeps on increasing, right, the impact of this material world, and finally when it comes to thunder, lightning, and this thing, that's when we decided to go back to the real shelter, go back in the house. What was the point? You were in a very comfortable place where you can get good rest and whatnot. You decide to go out and think of having so-called fun, and then slowly stuff comes in your in your life, that problem, this problem, this problem, and we still keep saying, that's okay, I'm having fun, that's okay, I'm having fun, that's okay, I'm fine, having fun. And we don't come to a realization until we truly understand how dangerous this place is, and then go back to the actual shelter of Krishna, of going back into the house. In our case, it is going back to the spiritual world. I thought it was an interesting experience for myself, how we gave up the nice spiritual world for so-called fun and deny the dangers in the name of fun, and then finally realize that no, this is not a place and I have to go back until that lightning strikes. So we have a choice, right? A person may decide to just go back into the house of Krishna without having to have that thunderbolt strike and lightning strike, or wait for the thunderbolt and let it strike us and then realize we have to go back inside and go back. So I'd like to end it here. Anybody wants to share comments or anything like that?
No, Prabhuji. Please accept my humble obeisances, all Shishwar Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Prabhuji, wonderful, discourse. Particularly, you comparing the wave after wave. You're floating on a boat or a ship, and we have to focus not on crossing the wave, but on getting onto land. That was so good. So then the realization you had with the tent experience, camping experience is also so good. Something comes to my mind in Canada. There's a parody where the story is about monkeys which are near a temple. They decide to do Ekadasi, and they all are very, very determined, and they start doing it. After some time, one little monkey says, hey, what are we doing? We're just sitting here doing nothing. Let us go and walk towards the banana, what do you say, farm. They walk towards the banana farm or whatever way they go. And then another one says, we're anyway here. There's still a long time to go, but why should we waste time? Let us keep one banana in our hats. And so on and so forth, before they realize, the banana is in their mouth, because they can store it in their mouth, and that's the logic they had. Finally, they end up eating it also. So, so this is the contrast, how we get illusion and we get intoxicated by the material world one step at a time, without realizing, from the noble goal of doing Ekadasi to having broken it. Yeah. So, thank you, Prabhuji. It was very, very,
No, thank you for that wonderful example, Guruji. Yes, very true, right? We say, I'll earn a little money so that we can be more Krishna conscious. And then we come, I'm not saying that doing that is wrong, but it's very important to understand. Yes, sometimes we can get eluded away by the so-called comforts of life, right? Okay, anybody else has any comments or any realizations to share? Because this is definitely a very, very, I would say a verse that we do not 100% realize, but a little bit here and there, somebody having realizations. It will be nice for everyone to share any realizations that came about for you through this verse.
Danat Pranam Prabhuji, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. I have many experiences in my life. End of the day, material energy promises and never delivers. Recently, I had texted you about.
Yes, I have. Yes, Prabhuji.
And but one thing is, the assurance is there definitely. In some ways, that Krishna is there as long as you are. Whether it is a difficult situation or is in a happier situation, what happens for a living entity is we always tend towards the God whenever there is a difficulty, but we don't when we are happy. So Krishna is teaching us that dukkhalayam asashvatam many times, but as you said, we don't realize. But it's like when we think about Vrindavan pastime, there the Yoga Maya is covering the pastime. For us, Maya is there, but Mahamaya is covering every time,
yes.
Which we don't understand. That this is, it's okay, we can make always adjustment, right? So that's what the whole thing you are talking about. It's adjustment is always use adjustment. So the material world is just an adjustment. And There's nothing comfort at all. It's just a matter of adjustment, which we need to realize.
Yes,
That's
Prabhuji.
all. Haribo. Thank you.
Prabhuji. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Your class, so practical and contemplative. I was really appreciating that, last night's 10 billions. I was actually your tolerance levels, though. I know. I mean, your realization and experience was on the other side, how we constantly try to deal with it and say, it's okay, yeah, this little one, that little one, I'll handle that. Yeah, that was really very striking and, visual analogy to see ourselves. I was also appreciating that you're sharing that first, especially the acceptance, if I own life, that is something I struggle with all the time. I mean, we may not be going through the intense, severe things, but even the little things, it's always going through why this happened. So much of that questioning comes up. I heard in one of the lecture, I think I forgot, maybe last year winter retreat or something, His Holiness Ramapal Swami Maharaj was sharing about this acceptance in the face of reversals. He was sharing when we accept intelligence to be able to act, what to do in that situation. Otherwise, it's so occupied in trying to find out which we cannot figure out on our own. So that was really very nice, Prabhu. In this verse, as you said, it's really so elevated beyond our capacity. But every time when, we read or hear Queen Kunti's prayers, it's actually inspires me that there is that stage, even though we cannot even fathom, Yudhishthira Maharaj or Kunti Maharani, like being so, their fate did not change. I mean, for us, we question, right? When something happens, Krishna, I've been trying to chant, I've been trying to serve you. Why are you doing this to me? They're not saying that. They don't have even a, hint of that kind of questioning Krishna's love for them, Krishna's protection for them. So for me, it's very inspiring to understand what is in store for us as we continue on this. So that is what is there when we, by Krishna's mercy and Guru's mercy, when we reach to that stage. Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, as you all are sharing, I actually wrote quite a few points that I wanted to share. With the interest of time, I didn't cover 3 of them. One of them I was thinking was about of the verse in Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says, what is day for an introspective sage is night for a materialistic person, and what is day for a materialistic person is night for an introspective sage. And I was trying to put that verse in this context and saying, okay, Queen Kunti is saying, I want more and more of these calamities. And I am saying, I don't want any of these calamities, right? I don't want this, I don't want this. The moment small calamity case, Namaste, Narsinghaya, we start that, right? Narsinghaya, please remove this, please remove this, please remove this. I was thinking, so it is day for me, and whatever is day for Queen Kunti is night for me. And whatever is day for me is night for Queen Kunti, because she's asking for more. So if you compare those two, where Queen Kunti is deriving her happiness, because end of the day, each one of us is trying to derive happiness, right? Happiness or pleasure. Where she is deriving her happiness is in the second part of it, where she's saying, I want to see you again and again. She's not saying, because of calamities, I'm seeing you. I want to see you again and again, but sometimes these calamities help me do that, right? So that's the difference, right? We are looking for happiness in this material world or through comforts of life, but Queen Kunti is wanting to derive happiness through seeing Krishna. So that's the biggest difference here. We want to see the, like Balaram Prasad was saying, we want to see the Mahamaya energy of the Lord, and she wants to see the Yogamaya of the Lord, right? And the second thing I was thinking about is Mataji was sharing about, Maharaj saying, the question of why, the more we contemplate on the question of why, the longer we will stay in that depression, that anger, that denial and whatnot. But when you come to the stage of acceptance, that's when you say, what should I do now, right? There's a nice small video by Gauragopal Prabhu. He says about how to not worry, right? He says, okay, if you have a situation in life, is there anything you can do about it? Is there nothing you can do about it, right? If he says, if the answer is there is nothing I can do about it, then why worry about it? Forget the why question. Then he says, if there is anything you can do about it, have you done anything about it? Yes. Did you do something? Yes, you did it. Then why worry about it? You've done something, just move on. And then have you not done anything about it? Then just do it, whatever you have to do about it, right? So I think, thank you very much for Mataji for sharing. It's always important to get away from the why. Sometimes why helps us understand how we can change in life, but often we see the why from other people's perspective, not why me. We see why from a different perspective. And often that also happens because of comparison. There's a very nice lecture by Gauranga Prabhu. He gives about how comparison kind of causes the biggest misery in life. The biggest misery in life is we compare ourselves with others, meaning, I have a situation A, and then we say, oh, that person is fine, this person is fine, this person is fine, and why me? Say if 100 people are going through the same thing, we don't have that problem. If we are the only person who's going through that problem, then that's when it's really, a problem for us. So if we carefully observe what I'm trying to say here, it's not the problem that is the problem. It is us, how we are looking at the problem is the problem. So that's another thing. The third point I had written down is, in Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana, when we're dealing with difficulties of life, often we easily blame things on karma, meaning, it's my karma. Or if somebody else is going through difficulty, it's their karma. There's a very, very important distinction that we need to do here, right? And I'm trying to remember exactly where I heard this. No, it's actually Maharaj's book in Journey Home. He says, it is important for one to be strict on oneself and lenient on others. Again, I'll repeat it. It's important oneself to be strict on oneself, but lenient on others. So, and this is a very unique principle, and this kind of blends into Namaruchi, Jivadaya, and Vaishnava Seva, right? What it is when there is difficulties in life, right? When there is difficulties in our own life, we have to say, it is my karma. And then this beautiful verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, Tattenu kampam susumikshamanam bhunjana yatkra dvipakam. Lord Brahma says, whenever there is calamities in my life, and you say, it is because of me, it was supposed to be worse, but it is because of the good fortune of the Lord, I am suffering less. So when it comes to problems in our own life, we say, Tattenu kampam susumikshamanam. But when it comes to problems for other people, right, we should not be strict on other people. What it is you cannot say, it is their karma, I feel sorry for them, I empathize for them. At that point, our perspective is, how can I help that person? How can I help that person when they're going through the difficulties of life? That becomes Vaishnava Seva. The true meaning of Vaishnava Seva is that somebody else is trying to be Krishna conscious, but some obstacle has come in their life, and how can I help them through that obstacle in their life? That is Vaishnava Seva. So that one principle of when there are difficulties, how do I apply difficulties in my own life? That is, it's my karma, I have to go through this. When it is somebody else's life, it's an opportunity for Vaishnava Seva, and how can I perform that Vaishnava Seva? I just wanted to share that one.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. It's a beautiful lecture, I would say, because you put very practical things. I mean, the yesterday's night example that you connected so nicely. So I know we try to adjust things to be happy in this material world. Generally, if you, frankly speaking, if I speak myself, I don't want to get out of this. right? I try to adjust it things to make myself comfortable as much as possible. I mean, if beyond my limits, maybe I will say, Krishna, yeah, I can't do. I mean, but that is also, I don't know. I mean, if you really do it.
Yes.
I mean, the example, I mean, the verse translation, I mean, it's not that, I mean, Maharaj was saying, yeah, when problems comes to us, we stay, okay, please stay far away from me. Don't come to me, right? I mean, we'll try to show our hand and say, I mean, we don't like problems.
Yes.
But then, I mean, it's not that Queen Kunti likes problems, because, I mean, as you said, the second part of it is what her focus is, because she is able to remember Krishna more and more. But in our case, actually, we are trying to solve the problems by keeping Krishna, right? So,
Yes,
I mean, that is where it is the problem in our consciousness. That has to be shifted. That's what I think it is.
Yes,
Nice, beautiful lecture, Prabhu. I mean, we try to adjust things to be happy in this world. So, yeah, the example that you gave, yeah, it's striking. I mean, the 10th example.
It's so true. Yes. Absolutely.
Yesterday, Maharaj gave a very, very practical for all of us as dealing with anxiety.
Yeah.
So that actually this verse is totally connected with that verse. I'm thinking about it. And most of them, he points out that the reason is, the cause is basically the false ego. So unless we take shelter of Krishna, I can do everything, that's what we hear. But, ultimately, shelter of Krishna is most important. That's what Maharaj was indicating. So then I forget about anxiety, this and that, but we have to know the realities, right? The realities of life, at least we'll come to know.
Yes.
So I was, based on my situations, I was talking to Dhananjay Pandit Prabhu yesterday. And then I was telling him, why is this happening to devotees? So my thinking was, why is it happening? Krishna is showing more and more, because as a rascal, I don't know if I deviate. It's to a few things, right? Diversion, divert, dilute, and deviate. Okay, so the moment we divert a little bit, it's completely diluted and then deviate for a person who is not fit in Krishna consciousness. I was thinking, we are so fortunate. If we are trying to divert a little bit, Krishna shows, hey, this is not the way, see? And he gives some trouble. If we understand and appreciate Krishna, thank you, Krishna, for giving this. So that means we should think that we are rascals. How much ever I deal, it's not going to help me anyway. So as a rascal, Krishna is teaching me, sorry, Balram Prasad, you cannot do anything much. So at least he is reminding me every time. And if I realize, yes, Krishna is giving me to remember him, at least I will be in his shelter. Otherwise, we'll completely deviate from Krishna consciousness as well. So this is my practical realization. So, how much ever we read, how much we hear, as you indicated in this lecture, it's a completely practical reality, what you spoke. And that's what everybody has to come up with in their own lives, because we always hear, but we don't follow, right? That's Maharaj also gave an example of what he did when a flight was, one engine was gone. I don't know whether you heard the lecture yesterday, Prabhu. Maharaj said he was in a situation. Did you hear that?
No, Prabhuji.
Okay. Maharaj said he was in a flight that one engine was gone, and then they could feel something going on, and the pilot announced that one engine is gone, and everybody is, and also it was gliding down. And so but in Canada there was a military base, and the pilot said, no worries, we are trying to land there. And everybody started screaming, praying, this, that, etc. But Maharaj took his chanting mala, and he reminded himself about Ante Narayana Smriti, and he started chanting Hare Krishna. And he himself said that he was surprised that they had no anxiety for him. He was very calm, steady, but finally the flight landed, because he realized that, okay, we may not be reaching. We are all, I think we are done. And he thought like that, and then he took the shelter of holy name. completely. And then he said, I was surprised myself that there was no anxiety for me. I was happy. So that was really a striking example Maharaj gave, etc. So how much, and also he gave a different example of turbulence. There was turbulence in the flight that goes up and down, up and down. Everybody was screaming, "Oh my God, what to do?" There, as you said, there was a lightning strike, there was a thunderbolt, everything, and flight was almost up and down, up and down. And there was a next to there was a little girl. They were so calm, reading book, etc. And Maharaj said that, finally somebody asked a question. I don't know whether he asked or somebody asked a question when he landed. Hey, why were you so calm? Everybody was screaming. And she said, that little girl said, oh, you don't worry, because my dad is the pilot who is actually, he was the pilot for this flight. So I know that he's going to take me home safely. So that means as long as we have Krishna as a shelter, whatever happens, it doesn't matter, right? In fact, when Mahati's last days, Pradusha Prabhu and Danakali Mataji visited home, and they, we were all in, depressed, etc., whatever it is, but Mataji said, no, this is happening. No, Mahati was telling this happening, this happening. I'm not able to do, even in that situation also, she was telling I'm not able to do service. Come on, great. Then Dalakili Mataji said, whatever is happening right now is basically burning away whatever the leftover bad karmas. Don't worry about it. It's just burning away. It's purified. Not even she did not tell bad karma, but she said it's purificatory process. So that's all. That's all it's. So even I thought in my situation, current situation, I was telling my daughter as well, hey, why is this happening for you? For me, it's just a purificatory process. That's all. If you think that it's a purification happening, yes, it is purification. For a devotee, you always think it's a purification. So it's good for all of us. It's a thought of inspired to share these examples again. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah, yes. Thank you, Guruji. Thank you very much for sharing this.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
So, Prabhu, in retrospect, I mean, a beautiful class and beautiful realization shared by everybody. In retrospect, though, I do see that when there are calamities, we somehow do get closer to Krishna, because our sadhana intensifies. I mean, of course, all that denial and everything happens, but still sadhana does intensify. I think the problem is that when things get better again, try to get relaxed again. And that's where Krishna seems to say that, okay, you need another dose now. To get back. So I just thought I would, because I do see that.
Yes, but it's very true, right? I think, and when we talked about the stages, there is bargaining stage that we're talking about, right? Sometimes our shelter in Krishna is also through bargaining. And in Krishna, I will do my japa better, help me get out of this situation, right? Sometimes we are bargaining that. But I think, and that's what Srila Prabhupada was pointing out to the Bhagavad Gita verse, right? And Krishna himself says, right? There is 4 kinds of people who come to me: Artho, Artharthi, Jignashu, Artha. And the key thing is, that is the potency of bhakti, irrespective of the reason why we came to bhakti. By engaging in bhakti, that may clear the situation, that may not clear the situation, but it purifies us, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it's a long journey. But beautiful realization, Mata. Yes, I think, and it gives us hope too, right? Because when we see that things have improved by taking shelter of Krishna, it gives us more faith in the process again, right?
True.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Just thought another perspective on this verse. I mean, personally in my life, it happened. it's nice we are thinking about, how to deal with problems when we are faced with that. But someone, when we don't have the complete understanding, when we hear this verse, it may also happen that, okay, Krishna, please give me difficulties so I can remember you. I heard this in my early life when I had similar mindset. We have to see where we are, the stage where we are at, our shelter and our faith in the protection of the Lord. Depending on that, we can face the calamities. If we ask for those kind of calamities and if we get it, we may not be able to handle, like these elevated devotees. Just thought I'll share that.
Absolutely, Mataji, yes.
Yeah, I was just trying to share same thing, Mataji. I remember one lecture few weeks back, Nityananda Prabhu gave it here at Naperville Center. So he was talking about some example of a devotee in Mayapur, Narshing Dev. In front of my Narshing Dev. She said that you do whatever you like, good for me. Something like that. I'm okay to take whatever problems you give. And there was lot of problems happened to her. Her husband was sick. So many problems happened. And then she remembers, and next week, I think she came next year, I think when she comes to the temple and she talks to the Pujari. And this is what I prayed. It's not that Narshing Dev is trying to give the problems, but yeah, we have to be careful what stage we are in. So, before asking, because the whole reason, I think, Prabhu, I think you clearly mentioned the second part of it, right? That is where most important thing. Whatever makes us remember Krishna. Okay, if there are problems, if I know we think that, okay, by removing those problems, we'll be able to remember. It's nothing wrong, I think, in praying. But yeah, so whatever second part is most important than the first one. So that is the key thing. So I was just remembering that Nityananda Prabhu, because I did that kind of silly mistakes or big mistakes. So, so I was just striking that point to me again. So I don't want to, act like that Queen Kunti.
Yes. That's why Srila Prabhupada says, right? It is important to not imitate.
Yeah.
But, yes.
That's right.
And I don't think we should ask. We have to ask for it because we are
anyway.
we are already in a mess.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thanks. Very nice, very wonderful class. What I was reflecting on is that most people, they go through the journey of life, we still maintaining some rosy picture of this material world, and they need, even when they see so much calamities around, they don't go into a philosophical, taking a what is the outside of this one, what is there to aspire for. When we think about that, that percentage of the population, I feel that is probably 99% or more. They still maintain that, oh, I have to simply get to the next stage of my material aspiration. And then when the difficulties strike, they happen to, some people do, some meditation on what's going on. Otherwise, they simply, they do not know there is a land to reach, and they do not know this is Dukhalaya Shashvatam. I feel like, there should be some loudspeaker to announce to people to bring them to right consciousness. So why they are so ignorant? Why they go through life for this silly, illusory, happiness. That makes me feel that.
That is where our service comes into play, I think.
Yes, really, yes, I notice so many people around me. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
No, thank you, Mataji. Thank you for sharing that realization. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? I think it's almost 8:08. Okay, if nobody else, Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhyo cha Pattanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha. Grandhara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.